Bienvenidos, Ushamdid, and welcome Anne Arundel Community College learners from the Spring 2023 semester taking the CTS-233 Section 400 Network Programmability course. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's DEVASC 200-901 Certification Exam Preparation course, and in Lab 3.4.6, we're diving deep into Python classes. This is part 4 of that lab, and here our focus is going to be on creating a Python class as well as deconstructing the components of the class, in other words, the methods and attributes that we would create this class with, and then we're going to go ahead and create some objects that come from that class. Now, up until this point in the course, everything that we've been doing with Python has been considered procedural programming. In other words, it's kind of like a top-down, you just write each line of code and off you go, and that is opposed to object-oriented programming. And so now our focus is really going to be on that object-oriented programming capability that Python offers. And I think you're going to see that it's pretty powerful. So let's go ahead and we're going to transition right back over to our DEVASC virtual machine. Again, if you don't have the DEVASC virtual machine, you can do everything that you see me doing here inside of the python.org IDLE, Integrated Development Learning Environment, IDLE, interactive interpreter, and you could create files in there as well. So let's go ahead and dive in here. We're actually going to be transitioning over to Visual Studio Code. Now, remember the My City program that we had? Pretty cool. We're going to create a new file. So we're going to say File, New File. It's going to be a Python file, and we are going to be creating a class inside of this file. Now, typically, you're going to have some comments up here maybe as to what this is going to do, but we're going to define the class right now. Now, they want us to define a class with a name of location. So how do we do that? Well, we say class location. Now, you'll notice I begin it with a capital L. And this is a very popular, I shouldn't even say it's a convention. It's covered in PEP 8, that Python enhancement proposal, PEP 8, that in order to differentiate your classes from variable names, and you're going to see what I mean here in a second when we go to create an object of class location, that we don't want to confuse class names and variable names. And so therefore, we're going to use the capital L. And when you see capital letters, that should represent a class, right? At the very beginning of the name of the class. For the variable, we would start with lowercase. So we simply say class location, and we could go ahead and hit enter. Now, here's where you could also, put your doc string. Doc string. Boy, I messed that up. Doc string. So you could put a doc string in here, right? That maybe gives some information about what this class actually does. And so then I'm going to put in the first, what is going to appear like a function. But I'm going to talk about this line here in a second. We'll say self, name, and then country. Now, I'm also going to be doing a much more network-focused class as we finish up and wrap up here. But for now, we're going to follow along with what the course is asking us to do. Now, a couple of things that are really, really important here. Now, you may look at that and say, oh, hey, that's a function. Well, remember, that doesn't run by itself. This is inextricably linked to the class location. And this is referred to as a dunder init, right? Because it's got the 2 underscores at the front end and the 2 underscores at the back end. Or you'll also hear it referred to sometimes as a magic method, right? Method being the key word. This is a method. So we're actually creating a method. Now, remember what I told you, it looks just like a function. And it does. There's your def. You got the name of the function. You got some positional parameters that you're going to be dealing with here, just like you had with a function, but this is inside of a class. This is a method. Now, what are we doing here with self, name, and country? What is that all about? Well, let's build this out here. I'm going to say self.name is going to be assigned the value of name, and then we're going to say, self.country is going to be assigned the value of country. Okay, I got that spelled right. I'm just checking there. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. We're going to get out of there. I'm going to back that up and we're going to do a little space. So let's talk about what we have here. Again, it's in a class. That is a method. Looks just like a function. That is the name of our method, and this is a special method. Now, you don't always have to use this, but it's a good habit to get into. We are going to be using dunder init. This is referred to as a constructor. In other words, think of this as like the button inside of the class factory that you push to turn the factory on. And so this is our dunder init factory button, our constructor, that tells this class, hey, here is how I want you to build the objects that are going to be pumped out of the location factory, out of our location class. Self. Now, this is a convention, and I do not recommend trying to get tricky here and use something else. Self is a convention. So what I'm saying is you could use, stuff or blah, 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 or whatever as a name here. Use self, right? Use self. Now, here's what's important about that word self. All that represents is the value that you're going to pass to the or that you're passing as the object name. So whatever the name is that we select to call our object, to name our object, it's the self value inside of the class here that is going to reference that name. So if I go to create an object from class location and the name that I give it is, my location, self represents that. So it would be my location and the name of it, and then my location country. And so self is just referencing the name that we give the object when we instantiate it. And so this can basically represent anything, any name that we are using. So my location, your location, Bob's location, Steve's location. When we instantiate the objects from class location using those names, they're simply represented in the constructor by the keyword self, right? And then these are what we refer to as the attributes, right? And sometimes you'll hear it referred to as, not the parameters, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? I can't think of the word right now, but maybe it's a parameter. Maybe a parameter is the word, but they're attributes. I like the word attributes, right? Because what are the attributes we have for objects that we're instantiating here? Well, we've got a name attribute because it's going to have a name. We've got a country attribute, right? That's going to represent the country. Those are the attributes that the object will have. So let's clear the screen here and let's go back. And now let's take a look at how this is going to play out. So now we can quickly test our class here and see, okay, is this going to work? So I'm going to create, I'm going to click back in here. I'm going to create an object. And again, I can do this right in the same file. You could also do what I'm doing from the interactive interpreter, but this is going to be a little bit easier. So we're going to create an object called loc. And again, kind of an odd name that they pick here, but that's what it is. And that object is going to be assigned the value that gets returned here, which is location. And you can see that VS Code knows, hey, okay, you've got something named location here. And so I'm going to put in my name, right? So I'm going to, Travis. I'm going to spell my name right and put it in there. And I'm going to put my country in here, USA. And so what are we doing here? We are instantiating, we are creating an object of type location from class location. These are the attributes it has. And you can see, let me pull this back out so we can draw some lines here. Location gets passed in as self. Or I should say loc gets passed in as self. So every time you see self for this instantiation, it is representing loc, L-O-C. So loc.name is going to be the name. So there's the name because that got passed in here. And then USA is the country and that gets passed in here. So again, it's just like a function, right? except it's a method because it's inside of this class. And I can't call that by itself and have it do what I'm doing right now. So this is how everything in our class lines up. Well, let's go ahead, and I think they're going to want us to run this here. Oh yeah, okay, we've got to drop some print statements in. So we're going to drop in some print statements. So let's go ahead and I'll just put a space there. So we'll say print loc.name, and that should print out Travis. And then we're going to say print loc.country. Again, the attributes that go along with the object, LOC, because LOC is the name of that object. Now, let me go ahead and click File, Save. And where's Save? We'll click File, Save. Again, you can see that Save As dialog opens up behind. And I'm just going to call this loc, or actually they want us to call it myLocation.py. Let's click Save. All right, and now let's go ahead and say run without debugging. And there you go. So now I've created an object. Now, here's one of the cool things. Again, we can do this from the interactive interpreter. So if I clear my screen right here, if we were to simply define these things from the command line, I could say class location 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're just going to skip the doc string there. And so let's define the method dunder init, right? The magic method here, our constructor, we'll say self, we'll say name, we'll say country, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so now let's self.name is going to be assigned the value of whatever gets passed in when it's instantiated. When this object is built, it's going to get the value of what came in as name. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then self.country, and this is going to get country. And here's the deal, right? So watch what happens now. So I just hit enter a couple times, right? That's it. So inside this namespace, again, in the interactive interpreter here, what do we have? Do we have anything that represents location in here? And there it is, right at the very beginning, because it's capitalized, right? Remember, we want to start the name of classes with a capital letter. And so here is my method, which looks just like a function, except it is inextricably linked to this class in which it has been defined. So let's go ahead and instantiate, and let's create location 1. And I'm going to use a little different object naming scheme here so we can create multiple objects. So I'm going to say loc1 is going to get location, and then we want it to be Travis, and we want it to be USA, right? And then loc2 could be location, and I'm going to use a friend of mine here, Mateo, and his location could be Mexico City, right? And then I'll use loc3. So all I'm doing is creating objects here, right, that have these attributes, self, name, and country. And so location, and then we'll say Erica, and Erica, I believe she's in Sweden or Norway. All right. So there we go. So now what happens if I say loc1 without calling for the attributes? Well, it's just going to tell me, hey, it's an object, and here's where that is located in memory. What about loc2? Yeah, it's in a different memory location, loc3. So these are independent objects. They're their own mutually exclusive independent objects. Well, from the interactive interpreter, I don't have to say print loc1.name. Remember, we're in the interactive interpreter. I can say loc1.name. In other words, give me the attribute, right? The name attribute for that object. loc2.name. Mateo, loc3.name. So I've just created 3 objects here. Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, wait a second. Does that mean, like, if I wanted to add an attribute of some kind, that I've got to, like, go back and, like, redo the code? Well, take a look what happens here. What if I was to say loc1, which we know is Travis, and what if I was to say loc1.age? Now, you'll notice it says attribute error, right? the location object has no attribute age. If we scroll back up, you'll notice we don't see that here. What are the attributes? Name and country are the attributes for these objects. But what if I wanted to add age? How would I do that? Could I do something like this and say loc.age is 53? What happens? Well, we end up with this error here, right? So what if I was to say, okay, what if I went, oh, I'm sorry, I said loc age. That's why we got the error, because I said loc age instead of loc1.age gets 53. So then you can actually add attributes right here from the interactive interpreter, meaning that in a program, I could do something similar if I wanted to start adding attributes later on. One of the examples I used when I was teaching an honors Python course at Crofton High School was we talked about like role-playing games, like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, what is your dexterity? What is your strength? What is your health value? And these are all things that we can add and manipulate with these objects. So now if I said, loc1.age, what do we get? We get 53. Well, next year, are we going to increment the age for the person or the player, right? Or maybe we want to do that the following year in our program, we could do that. And then if I say loc1.age, now it's 54. But again, it's inextricably linked to this object, right? These attributes that we've created are associated with this object. All right, so we went ahead and we ran, and they actually, I think they did it from the command line, but we did it inside of VS Code. So that's how you can create an object. That's how easy it is. And so maybe you've got, maybe you've got your VS Code and you decide, oh, you know what? Let me go ahead. We're going to add in, when the object's instantiated, I want them to put in the age, right? And maybe I want them to put in some other attribute about that person, like, oh, I don't know, favorite color, right? And so if we go to instantiate the object here, let's run this. Let's save this and run this and see what happens when we have defined some attributes here, but we don't pass those attributes in. So I would say self.age, and then we said self.faveColor. I'm sorry, I wanted to do self.name age gets age, and then faveColor gets faveColor, right? So there we go. So let's save this, but you'll notice that we're not passing those values in here. We're just passing into the object to the method, the dunder-init method, Travis and USA. So what happens? We're going to get an error here. Let's say run without debugging. And you can see it tells us, very similar to the functions we were creating, right? If there's something that's required as a positional parameter here, right, for the arguments that are being sent in, we need to have those in there. So what I would want to do is come in here and say 53, comma, and we'll say yellow, right, as a favorite color. So now let's save this. Let's rerun this with run without debugging in VS Code, and take a look at what we get. So now it works, but again, we didn't print out here at the bottom. We printed out loc.country, but we didn't print out loc.age, and we didn't print out loc.faveColor. Whoops, color. All right, so let's save this again. We'll come up here, we'll say File, Save, and then let's run. Oh, I didn't want to do debugging. Sorry about that. We'll say Stop debugging. We're going to run without debugging. There we go. And there you go, Travis, USA 53, yellow. So that's how we could add it into the actual code itself when the object is being instantiated. All right, so how do we add a method into the class? And remember, we have a method here already, right? Which is our magic method, the constructor, the start to produce objects button, right? That's inside of our class factory. So now they're going to have us put in a method here, and the method that I'm looking at is going to ask us to do something with myLocation. It's going to print out a state. Okay, so we're going to put a method in here to print something out. So we're going to back up. We're going to come down to here. And so here's what we're going to do now. We're going to define this new method. Now, this method is going to be called myLocation. Again, method names follow the similar naming conventions as functions do. We don't start them with a capital letter, only the class. And here again, we say there's that self again, right? And remember, what does self refer to? Well, it's the name of whatever you instantiate that object with. And again, we could have all the different names, loc1, loc2, loc3, loc4, like we did from the CLI, from the interactive interpreter. So what is this location going to do? Or I'm sorry, what is this method going to do called myLocation? Well, we're just going to have it print something out. We're going to have it print, hi, my name is, and then we're going to concatenate that with the attribute self.name, right? And then we are going to concatenate that with and my location, and I live in, and again, we're going to concatenate self.country. All right, and then we're going to concatenate that to a period. All right, so we're going to be grammatically correct in here as well. So what have we done here? And I'm wondering if I could kind of shrink that, or there we go, get rid of that so that we can use all of this real estate here. So what have we done? So I've created a method. The name of the method is myLocation, right? Now, there's that parameter self, which again is simply referring to whatever name whatever object name we're referring to, right? Remember, the self value, right, is simply passing the object name that we use to instantiate, right, or that we are referring to. That is what is going on right there. And then that's all it's going to do. So let's go ahead and save this, and then let's go ahead and run this. And let's see if anything different happens here. Well, we don't get the print statement. Why do we not get that, or why do we not get it to print out, hi, my name is whatever, and I live wherever? Well, it's because we didn't call that method, right? So how would we do that? Now, the lab, excuse me, the lab breaks it down, and it says what we're going to end up doing is down here, we're going to instantiate what's called loc1. So again, they're kind of using the naming convention that I was using earlier. So we're going to say loc1, we're going to instantiate that object with the name of Travis and with a location, and I want to go back there, and a location of Crofton, right? So this is loc1. Now that would print out Travis and Crofton, but we want to use that method that we created called myLocation, right? So we can call the method, right? And this is, think of it like this. If this was the name of a list, .append, right? Now with append, we append something in there. We put something in the parentheses, but here with this method, I'm just saying loc1, run that method, myLocation. And what is that method going to do for loc1, right? It's going to say, hi, my name is loc1.name, the attribute name, and then I live in loc1.country. Well, let's run this and see if this does what we think it's going to do. So we'll say file, save, and we'll say run without debugging. Now, take a look at what happened here. We end up with an error message, again, showing you that we had no values in here. So we instantiate the object here, but then when I go to run the method, just like the append method, right? And I want you to see this, just like the append method was asking for us to put something in there, the same is true here of loc1 with myLocation. But do we have to put something in there? And we shouldn't have to do that, right? We shouldn't have to put anything in there. So let's see, excuse me. Let's see what's wrong. We read the error message. Oh, right, I forgot to put age and favorite color in there, right? So again, just to show that, hey, we need age and favorite color in here. So I'll put it in as a string. Well, actually put it as an integer. So we'll say 53 and favorite color, yellow. So now let's rerun this after we save it. We'll say save, and we'll say run without debugging. And again, hi, my name is Travis and I live in Crofton. And we could have extended this method out to include self.age and self.faveColor. And we could even do it with another line here. I am, and we got a space in there, and so we'll say plus, and we'll say self.age. So I am 53, and we'll concatenate that to, and we'll need a space there, years old, and my favorite color is, and we're going to do a little concatenation. I'm mixing and matching the quotes here, so let me sort that. I just looked back and I was like, wait a second. There we go. So we clean, oops, sorry. Yeah, we clean that up. 1, 2. There we go. We clean that up. My favorite color is, and we're going to concatenate that to self.faveColor. And you can see I could hit enter because it had highlighted it here in VS Code, made it kind of simple. All right, so let's save this and run it and see what we get. Save and run without debugging. So look at this. We get this error here. So what is the error? So probably come up, maybe it's a syntax error. Can only concatenate string, not integer. Yeah, that's right. Age was an integer. So how can I fix this? Well, could we do something like this? Could we do something like this? Can I say, hey, take the attribute self.age, which is an integer, and typecast it to be a string. And again, have it play the role of a string here in this print statement. Let's say file, save. And this is what's great about running into mistakes. And there you go. I'm 53 years old and my favorite color is yellow. All right. Now my favorite color isn't yellow. It's just the first color that came to mind for whatever reason. All right. So again, all we're doing is invoking the object name and the method that's inside this object that can then print out the information that we want based on the object name. Now, what if I did that same thing for just loc, right? Because we could do the same thing for loc, and I'm trying to get my cursor back here. So what if I said loc dot myLocation, open parent, close parent. Let's say, we're going to save this. Let's say file, save, and let's run this without debugging. And there we go. And again, we did the same thing. Travis USA 53 yellow, but it's printing all of that information out a second time based on loc1. Or, I'm sorry, based on loc. So, you know, what if I put in here Erica and we put in here, and maybe it's Norway. I can never remember. Norway 53 and then blue so that we can see that it's giving us something different. So we'll say save, we'll say run without debugging. And there you have it. Name is Erica. Her favorite place is or I should say she's in Norway. And so now what they have us do is they have us instantiate loc2, and I'll use their values here to make this a little bit quicker. And we'll say location, and what are we going to do here? I'll say, or I'm sorry, name. So name is Ying, and Ying lives in China. Now remember, we've got these two other attributes. We're going to say that she's 33, and we're going to say that her favorite color is purple. There we go. And then they want us to do loc2, right? And we'll say location, and we're going to say the location, and then the name is Amari, and Amari lives in Kenya. And Amari is 43 years old, and his favorite color is green. All right, there we go. So we had the loc1 location, myLocation, the loc, and so now let's go loc2 dot myLocation. And then we'll say loc3 dot myLocation. Again, we're just invoking, we're calling that method. And did I do loc2? Sorry, I want to loc2, loc3. There we go. So all we're doing is we are instantiating an object. Here is, and let me go ahead and break this up a little bit. So we're instantiating, we're creating our objects in the object factory, and we're giving our objects these attributes, which if we wanted to later on, we could add to and change, right? But for the lab, we're instantiating the 3 objects that you see here with those attributes, and then we're relying on the method that we created inside of the object definition called myLocation, which for each of the objects I use with that method is going to print those 2 lines out. And this is how we do object-oriented programming. This is much different than procedural programming. So we're going to say run without debugging, and hopefully we don't get any errors, and we see everything that we wanted to see right down here at the bottom, right? So very, very cool. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at the entire script as it stands right now. And again, we kind of went up to the top. So we have an area for comments. That's our definition of defining the class. The lab shows you the complete code that's required. Again, it's all included in here in some form or fashion. We've extended the functionality of the class to show you just how that might work. Now, I promised I was going to show you a network-centric version of a class. Well, how would we do that, right? What would that look like? Well, why not ask ChatGPT? So can you please produce the Python class code that will create a class using the init method that has at least 5 attributes for a Cisco router, with one of those attributes being a serial number? Here's the code right here. That's it right there. So let's go ahead. All we'd have to do is grab this. Let's copy this. And since we're going over to the virtual machine, I'm going to go ahead and say File, New File. It's going to be a Python file. And can I paste in? Oh, and we'll go to Edit and Paste. Hopefully this is going to work for me. And there it is. So there is the definition for a Cisco router class, and we can instantiate objects, by passing in those attributes. Remember, self just refers to the name. So what would that look like? Let's backspace out here. So if I wanted to instantiate a Cisco router, let's call it router 1. And router 1 is going to be Cisco router. And then I pass in the attributes, the model. Let's say it's a 2911. And then we've got the iOS version. Well, 2911, we're going to go with 15.3 code, right? And then it's got a host name. What would the host name be? Well, we're going to call it RTR1. Or maybe so if we have a lot of routers, -01, right? What about an IP address? Okay, 168. This will be its management IP.10.100. What about the serial number? All right, FTX 8675309. So is that going to instantiate the object router 1? It absolutely is. And then what if I wanted to see router 1.IP address? IP_address. Now, I would use different names here, right? I may use IP and then a capital A, but they're using underscores, not a big deal. So that would print out the IP address of that router 1 object. What if I wanted to see the serial number for router 1? This is going to print that out, serial number. And there we go. So let's save this file, right? So we'll say save. And again, that dialog box opens up behind it here. And we're just going to call this Cisco Router.py. Hit enter. We save it off. Let's run without debugging. And what do we get? There you have it. It printed out the IP address and the serial number of that object for me. That's how easy it is to work with classes, right? And remember, think of a class as simply nothing more than a factory. And that factory produces objects of whatever type the class is set up to produce. And here it's routers. Over here, it was location information. And we have a method here. We could do the same thing in the Cisco router class, is to come back in here and define methods. Maybe one of the methods is print serial number. Maybe another one is print host name. Maybe another one is print model, right? And so then you would say router1 dot print model, open parent, close parents, and boom, it's going to print the model of that router out for you. All right. Well, hopefully this has made you feel a little bit better about object-oriented programming in Python and kind of showed you, how easy it is to get started and to start to create objects. And remember, hey, ChatGPT is your friend. Why not go ask ChatGPT and then take that code, extend it, modify it, mess around with it. Ask ChatGPT, hey, can you put some methods in here that would print out that information for me? And then build from there. All right. Thank you so much for watching part 4 of Lab 346. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video.